Hello everyone and welcome here to SANDBOX versus Soniqs. Now, it is, I'm going to say do or die, but likely die. It's not easy for these two teams, impossible for Soniqs to escape groups at this point. I'm Fluke, and this is Hap.
I'm here still. Yes, we are getting into the game very soon, of course, but there is some stakes we need to talk about because, as we mentioned before, Soniqs is going to be unable to make it out of groups. However, still a third place to fight for. We'll get into that as we do head into the map. Just that little bit on exactly what that would mean. But more importantly, what map will we be going to?
Now, obviously, these two teams played each other before on Oregon, but we find ourselves onto Club this time. Oregon was almost another double down, and obviously the recent score was SANDBOX were able to take it away from Soniqs, so SANDBOX opting not to go back. They're opting to try and find themselves in a new location. Club, which we haven't seen much of this tournament at all, let alone from these teams.
No, and what I have on the stats for the last 3 months is that Soniqs played it once and they lost it. SANDBOX hasn't played it at all. And SANDBOX has been in kind of a habit of playing maps that they haven't quite played during the APAC North stage. And that could be quite risky because you haven't really fully been tested on these strategies. Wow. Now when it matters most, they need to win if they want to keep in the fight.
Well, the players are getting themselves ready and they're getting themselves pretty much locked in. So we may as well find ourselves locked in as soon as. So, ladies and gentlemen, let's jump into Clubhouse. It's a German map. We're in Berlin, and we are looking at some stakes. So here are some. Soniqs, they cannot escape this group. That is now set in stone. FaZe have already, FaZe at the top of this, 12 points. They are locked, they're through. They have the 4-0-0-0. They're happy to go. G2 and SANDBOX. G2 currently have a little bit of a head start. They've got 8 points. SANDBOX only have 3, which was, well, their win against Soniqs.
Yeah. So I was just talking about the SI probabilities, and for Soniqs, if they manage to finish third in the groups, they will be going up to about a 50% chance of making it to the 6th Invitational, of course, depending on the rest of their results and the other results. If they finish 4th in the group, it will stay on a 38%. And just a straight-out loss here against SANDBOX would make sure that they will be unable to climb out of that current 4th spot and will not be able to overtake the green team.
I was running some numbers, Hap.
Were you?
Yeah, I was running some numbers, and by that I mean I was looking at them and writing them down because I wanted to see how these teams performed in their recent matchup for the side of SANDBOX. It was their only win. It was their only sort of points that they've been able to put on the board, and obviously Soniqs, they're trailing a little bit further back. They have the single point that they took in the OT versus G2, but it's the sort of balance of the performance that you're looking at, and there was a bit more balance on the side of SANDBOX. Well, that was what sort of locked it out, took it down. SANDBOX are the team that they suffered a lot of losses, but they could have put a little bit more. They could have beat FaZe. They could have been the first team to beat FaZe yesterday, which imagine the different scene that would have been painted with that. But we don't, so we can only sort of see how they played at the start of yesterday. And MV Taylor is the first name that sort of screams to the top of my mind. Good Boy had a better performance, but MV Taylor just really stepped in for SANDBOX.
Yeah, SANDBOX actually able to put up 3 7-5s onto the scoreboard. However, only one of them was a victory. The other 2 were the losses against FaZe. And you just mentioned MV Taylor and Good Boy, but if you look at the majors so far, MV Taylor is the top-rated player of this team, with Good Boy just following shortly behind it. And Static, Shao, and Arakaze, who hasn't really been able to have the best of performances yet, unlike he was able to do so in APAC North. So really hope to see a little bit more from him as well, and of course his international playing stage here in the Berlin Major. Now, we're starting off with Soniqs on the defense. We quickly go over those operators that got banned. Azami. There was a lot of the architecture that now will not be able to be done due to the Thatcher ban we saw from the Soniqs to come out. It is also the K that gets removed by SANDBOX, and then Flores, which will just make sure that these shields stay up a little bit longer overall.
Soniqs with the tall extension across the top floors of Club, it's pretty common. And the deciding factor is that the team's going to try and drive and cut them in the middle. Good Boy starting his approach here from the side of Strip there, getting some clarity that there's no loose players tucked in onto the pocket. You can see there was the extension of the other run out, droned out too. It's a very quick idea of, okay, that's clear. let's push on. The problem is sometimes players can get a little bit loose and a little bit wild. So you've got to make sure that you're going to be ready to catch them when you start forcing the players a bit mobile. Here over the top of Logistics, here baiting the pressure onto the stairs. They're saying, any of your routes out, we're going to make sure that there's a SANDBOX player there.
Or at least some pressure to make sure that there is a little bit of a scare in the players of Soniqs when they do want to try and rotate out. So with that, it is now SANDBOX trying to put up a bit more pressure. They're worried, though, about someone potentially being around in the CCTV. You see Good Boy continuously aiming towards that direction as the Jacuzzi now gets opened up. That is just going to be Rexon sitting in the middle of the gym right there, taking a lot of damage, but somehow still surviving.
I don't think they expected the players to be repelled up on the close side. Maybe thought that they would pull themselves back, expect potentially some control over the top of the stair set itself. So Rexon suffers, but survives. That's the important part. The Mozzie can still try and waste as much time as possible and has the hatch as a choice to drop out of. There's Good Boy. He hops in on the connection roll. He's wondering about Logistics. He's curious about the player that might have left gym, and they're trying to find them. If he doesn't know of the rotation, as I said there, the Logistics swing, then that could end up costly. There's a player at least behind him. Rexon goes down. There's a bit of support coming through from Yessi, I believe, but there's the Malusi caught out by Good Boy, ready and willing to spring. Now there's just a single player on the top. They're swinging onto Logistics from the opposite side of Good Boy. They're able to win out the fight there as Grixer finds MV Taylor at the same time.
Shao takes a lot of damage here as well, and Wool eventually drops. Suddenly SANDBOX, they've lost that 2-minute advantage and now are a single man down. Of course, Rexon still in the DBNO phase, could still be picked up, but right now not a real gun that is active and fighting for this round. And with that, SANDBOX, it's Arakazi and Static. They need to try and clutch this one out. They will be opening up some of these hatches, try and provide a bit more pressure, but will it be enough?
Wow, I think by the looks of it, with the downs down below, they just decided to try and throw themselves through the central corridor, down to the main stairs, and obviously the player on the end, the far side of the cap can of Grixer, was able to just tear two of them apart. Even though they'd had the down on the top floor and Good Boy had just cemented a kill, they didn't do the rest of the work, and now it's just 10 seconds. And only one player left. Static caught out before he even entered, and SANDBOX, they got a couple of questions.
They started off really strong here, Emmy. They managed to get these first two kills, although one was an injury, not directly the kill, but it counted as a player that is currently not engaging in any of the fights and needs to be picked up. So resources, the defenders need to go there to make sure that he is able to be playing again. And then suddenly it all just falls apart in a matter of seconds for SANDBOX there.
Protect your bombs from being defused.
It's important to notice and mention that SANDBOX really need all the points that they can get. They cannot afford to lose a single one, or their fight to potentially go to playoffs is also finished, just like that one Kias we saw a little bit earlier to be taken out as well. Now we head towards the top floor, towards the gym and the bedroom. Some cameras being set up here and there, Super using these evil eyes, either for information or plan denial, maybe even information denial. And as they set themselves up all the way across that top floor, hatches get open, walls get reinforced, just to make sure that they have the extension towards CCTV and cache. Because you do not want the attackers to freely play on the balcony. You need to make sure that there could be pressure down there. Because that way, as you can see now being portrayed, you can lock them off of any of these windows. They cannot use any of these windows for a direct attack, as long as that CCTV cache is in your control.
One thing I've got the curiosities about is how much of this is resting on SANDBOX's shoulders. Obviously, it was a quick push. They had about 50 seconds. Usually, they're quite thorough. Now, Soniqs, they cannot progress. There's SI points to be played for, and they want to get a win. You don't want to sort of leave a tournament empty-handed ever, even if you don't escape groups. It's nice to at least go with a little bit more under your belt. But still, there's a sort of confidence that goes against those mistakes that might happen if a team is a little bit too laser focused on everything has to be perfect. The pressure comes across the top. Very quick, the close down towards the players inside CC. Once again, it's a game of isolation. They need a player onto the window of construction, which it seems like MV Taylor is going to go take up that mantle. So when they force out Grixer and Rexon, they cannot rotate freely. There has to be a little bit of pressure.
Magnets being tossed out just to fortify that position in construction. Drones are coming through. They know that the pressure soon will start to rise. SANDBOX, they need to take control of the CC area. Grenade comes through. It's not going to be doing any damage there to Grixer. He stays aggressive, wants to go even for more. Jimpact could be on the cards right here, but he decides to stay a bit passive. Because Soniqs, they know that that could be very well detrimental at the same time.
Well, they're inside the site. Rexon wants to go for the swing, pulls back, and then gets popped by Good Boy, leading the charge with the Finker. They're going to pop the grenade onto the door so no one can swing around. They decide to tuck tail and head round the corner. Envy Taylor finds the jump out of Kansan on the far side of the window. Super's trying to bite his way back in across the top. They're inside the bedroom. They haven't tried to put the kit down as of yet, SANDBOX, even with what looks like primary site control. So you are a bit curious. That's what they're doing. In fact, no, entirely wrong. It's obviously not CC. The site itself is just still standing. Forgive my mistake. The mistakes are starting to come through here. The pressure of Static swinging slowly towards the bedroom windows. Envy Taylor's watching the run out onto the jacuzzi side as they're taking quick control.
Now a slow style coming in here. Soniqs, they try and reposition themselves, hide maybe even if they have the opportunity to, whereas SANDBOX is getting themselves in position in many different kind of angles. They want to be striking all at the exact same time, make sure there is no chance to fight back, and especially Super dropping right now from a long angle on Envy Taylor. It is going to be a 2-on-5 situation. Grixer looking to retake here on the jacuzzi, is going to be finding a lot of damage, but actually dies himself instead. Yet he stands up right behind the desk, finds one, but Arakaza shuts him down, and that is Soniqs losing their round against SANDBOX here, so it's not going to be that 2-0 they might be looking for. Instead, this time SANDBOX managed to translate that 2-minute advantage to a round win.
One apiece, and now we're going to CC.
Yes.
It's the third day.
It is the third day. Last day of groups. Still a lot to be decided.
It's the third day in a warm room.
It is warm, yes. I chose to wear a sweater.
You did? Why?
Because I only packed a couple of shirts and a sweater, thinking one day will be sweater day. No. Well, yes, it still is, but it's not the best choice. It is quite warm. And I needed my shirts for playoffs still, so I can just go all out.
1-1. Now, we've seen Club generally have a bit of a lean in towards attackers. Soniqs, they're going to see if they can try and get the 2, and even half is pretty good. 4, and, well, they should be flying. And this site might be a little bit of a telltale site. CC, once upon a time, was the preference for most teams pretty much around the world of being a first pick. But then as the attacker meta really started to find its feet, everyone found out how to take CC. It's a multi-step process that we've mentioned many times. This could be an interesting first step to take it out. No, just misses the Pixel player as they slip on by.
The Monty is going to be super helpful here for the side of SANDBOX. So they want to be pushing up. I only expect the garage, get rid of the player in rafters, and make sure that you force them to go back towards the side. That way you do take garage without too much trouble. And as you see right here now as well, the walls are getting opened up by the Heartbreach gadgets. One on the top floor. This was usually done by Hibana before these gadgets came out, just so a firebolt can go through towards the window to stop anybody from jumping through or sitting there, which is currently the case.
Envy Taylor with the Capitao wants to try and apply the pressure. You're wanting to force that player out the top. Grixer puts a peppered bullet through the soft barricade and gives the idea of concern of, well, somebody's around that area. As the breach gets popped on the site itself, it's the first step, and as I said, a multi-step process. Here might be the next one. Obviously, there's Womaitis and ADSs to try and protect that power position player on the top rung for as long as possible. The shield is going to be the drive, but everybody sort of knows that. Shield by himself can't really do much apart from put pressure onto territory. The first flash gets burnt, the second comes through. There's a C4 Yeti deep underneath the rungs, looking towards the door. Kansan finds Static. There's a C4 over the top. Kansan gets caught out by Good Boy through the open breach on the ground level. Arakaze is able to pop off the end of Rex. I'm not sure if he was down, but the fire gets removed too. And they're going to go for a rotate. Grixer, in the meantime, gets caught. Yeti is still isolated. He's coming up on the side of Lounge underneath. He finds Good Boy, gets the fight. The kit's still cold. It's going to be picked up now. Yeti, he's going for a bit of a retake. He cannot see the man underneath him. Just finds it at the last split second. Gets out of there.
One more smoke canister to play with now on the side of Soniqs if they want to go for a denial. But there's still 60 seconds on the clock. It's looking very unlikely that utility will be the decisive factor here. The guns need to come in clutch. Super sitting on top of the red stairs can hold the window jumping. Yeti close around the doorway. Needs to be careful to not be sprayed down, which exactly he will be. And now it's only up to Super in a 1v3 situation up against the Monty that's currently going for the plant. There is cover from the garage. There's cover onto the balcony, but that one has been removed. 45 seconds though, a 1v2 against the Montaigne with an extended shield. Good luck with that.
It ain't easy. We've seen this in 1 versus 1, so it's even worse in a 2 versus 1. The shield can just be a shield. He doesn't really have to do too much at this point other than cause a problem. You can see Shiles got out of there. He doesn't need to extend either because, well, why does he have to play the fight? The Monty's doing everything to waste time. He's just going to hold on to the rappel, let them have a 1 versus 1 dance and a dabble. No smoke canisters left. Nothing Super can really do. Shile gets his first for the game, and SANDBOX get their second round.
And that's where the Monty is so powerful. I mentioned it before to you, Emmy. They're going to use that to clear the rafters. They push out the players there. This time actually killed them instead. Even better. Move up towards the side, try and go for the plant, and after that it is a done deal. Even though if one of your covers dies, there is a second one in the Montaigne shield, so nothing to worry about for SANDBOX. We headed towards the church and Arsenal, back towards the bottom floor, where SANDBOX was able to go for 2 impressive opening kills, but unfortunately Soniqs managed to bring it back quickly after that. There you have it, the player probability. An overtime win or a regulation win could theoretically be enough to find themselves in a situation where they can still fight. Of course, then they need to win against G2, and G2 cannot have any proper results later against FaZe as well.
Proper result?
Any proper results.
What's an improper result?
Oh, improper results is when you lose.
Okay.
Or rather, in the case of SANDBOX, there you go, they would like to see G2 lose in that case. So a proper result for G2 in the eyes of SANDBOX. Don't drop your phone.
My phone on the floor.
Yeah, no, that's fine.
If SANDBOX win this, and they find themselves obviously 6 points to G2's 8, their fate is at least for 1 game in their favor. Their last game that they'll play is against G2, and they have to take the win to have a decisive there. And then even then, it might still be taken away from them. But at least their route ahead for them, it starts with a win here, and it starts with the confidence across the board. The pressure, once again, comes over the top. As I sort of said before, they'd started with a good hold. They'd got the down, they had the pressure and the catch on other players, but half of the SANDBOX team had headed off to site and lost out the gunfight. Maybe they thought there was less players there. It doesn't matter if Grix is able to pop off with a 3K.
Yeah, so they need to be playing this a bit more patiently here to ensure they don't make these same mistakes. And these last 2 rounds from SANDBOX, they have been well played by them. Not really anything Soniqs could do to stop them. So if they continue that now onto a difficult side, as Gitboy takes a small amount of damage, will heal himself back up. But they are aware of the fact that someone's around the launch. It is going to be Grixer, and the pressure will continue to rise from SANDBOX's point of view, as a grenade will be tossed around the corner right there, but he will find Gitboy instead. So that nade drops to the ground, and so does Grixer.
Well, Shile instantly bites back over the top of red stairs, trying to swing their way down towards Lounge. You've obviously still got a couple of players inside. Grixer seems to be that big balance, and they're just going to take the drop in the hatch and get out of there. A minute 20, fair enough. You're wasting time on the top floor, but if you can survive and get out of there, that's the big important part of the play. Yeti making sure that if they're chased, he has a response and a full stop into that sentence, but currently nothing. Apart from Grixer down towards the side of Blue. Was that? I'm trying to work out where the other angle was. Yep, Envy Taylor on the far end was putting bullets towards the back end of Church behind the little tucked in bar, but they're steadily trying to form around the defenders.
SANDBOX still with that man advantage, HP advantage rather. Just a single hit on Grixer will be confirming him. You just need to isolate him. And when they do find and isolate one of these players, it is suddenly a big opening they can play with. And they're just holding from Blue. Yeti still on that roam, ready to strike. No awareness whatsoever from SANDBOX. Yeti is going aggressive right now, finds one. Arakazi of the board, swaps around towards the billiards table. Emmy is going to be able to get the exothermic as well. Shotgun don't connect. Static will be able to turn it back into a 3-3, but it's the exothermic gone. You don't have anything left now. That means you need to do with what you have.
15 seconds though, and Rexon's able to find MV Taylor. Swung around on the side of Moto. Rexon is able to get one more with the swing. Static, all that's left, takes the head off of a single player. But with a pocket full of seconds and both of them on the other side itself, they're not going to hand anything over. Tucks the corner and holds F, but as you see, Grix has already moved up, ready to get the kill. Oh no! Pulls off, saves.
He's not going to give the kill away. I mean, there was nothing he could do there anyway, right? Even if he would have stuck for 3 seconds, that wouldn't have been allowed to happen there. So,
imagine if he did.
Imagine if they were like, you know what?
Ran around and just waited for him to plant, then killed him, just so he could get the defuse as well.
Just extra stats, right?
Extra stats.
Yeah, it's a disable stat.
I don't know because then you get the kill.
It does count on your statistics. Actually, it does give you extra EPS. He's just farming EPS.
Then you also give the other guy a plant. It's just like friendly.
Yeah, but that's, you know, it's trade for a trade.
It's a trade for a trade.
It's okay.
I'll
like
help your stats.
let
You
them
help
have a
mine.
bit. Yeah, exactly.
We're not saying the players obviously will.
Of course they won't.
It would just be funny. Timeout. A tactical timeout here for the side of SANDBOX.
Yep.
They think that losing those two is enough. It's both been on the same site, and I think that's the problem. Is SANDBOX want to ensure that they have that 4-2 that I talked about on the side of the attacker. This game has a heck of a lot of importance for them. They want to make sure that they do as much of a distance, because what we know of Soniqs is they can be a very, very, very good attacking team, and they have a formula, and a formula works very, 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 very well on Clubhouse, which is not a formulaic map, but one that has
a grocery list.
Yeah, one that has every centimeter of it mapped, tracked, statted, and ready to go.
I mean, when we saw CCTV just a little bit earlier, it is as simple as that. You see the Monty, you know, it's exactly what's going to happen. They're going to push that Monty up, you take the garage, you open up the main wall, and boom, you have the site, you have the round. It's won. As you saw it right there on your screen. Resume, the timer has been called in, so
Attackers need to locate
it is going to be round 5 and away. We are headed back towards the gym and bedroom. And you can see the site to get set up.
Right to the top.
MV Taylor is requesting where is his KD, because he quickly had to reset something during the game. So MV Taylor lost all his stats, unfortunately. He's not happy with it.
Oh no.
Imagine if that's the one thing you're worrying about.
Don't worry, MV Taylor. We're tracking that at home.
We will be tracking it, don't worry.
Yeah, he would have got in and pressed tab, because obviously they don't have the size.
No, they don't. But as we go on through, again a CCTV extension for gym and bedroom. As some of this fell quite quickly into the hands of SANDBOX. Some quick rotations away from this site by the Soniqs. I'm wondering to see if that is going to be changing now. Are we going to see Soniqs hold on a bit longer, or maybe go a bit more aggressive elsewhere to ensure that SANDBOX is not just going to be allowed to walk in as freely as they did before?
I guess we'll see. I incorrectly called it at the time. They did push on to what isn't the site. They got in very aggressively. As you said, they were able to take the first one. That was good, isolating, and they're going to do that once again, though. The pressure over on top of logistics. It seems like they're going to pay a little bit more attention towards Jacuzzi potentially first. There's a lot more of them stacked up rather than the single loose player. You've got really nobody over onto the far opposite side. There's the breach. They're waiting for a player, but nobody is to be gifted as of yet, hoping for a rotate behind the hefty gym machinery.
I actually like that he's repelled up there, because you can just see a little bit more. So if someone is a bit too far away from the gym machinery, you might be able to get their heads off, whereas otherwise if you're standing there, of course, you won't be able to. So kind of like what they're doing there. So you might see that become a new best practice. However, though, you are kind of a sitting duck if you're hanging up there, and if people do realize it, it's quite easy to counter.
Yeti and Rexon, they're playing a little bit more cavalier this time round, having a bit of a dance onto lounge, swing towards the door, putting that pressure in towards the idea of, well, anything SANDBOX want to roll too. You can see they're curious about the SANDBOX approach. They want to make sure that they meet it head on. Don't allow them to have any territory. Another grenade is about to come up right underneath the feet of nobody. Yeti does a fair bit of damage, but it wasn't enough of a hit or a direct one to take them out of the equation. Harakaze still has a pocket full of grenades, so he's going to step in instead. They're still trying to find up the loose ends. Here's another breach. Do they know where he is? It doesn't matter. Super gets one. Kansan gets caught in the drop down the hatch itself. He took the reverse vertical. Super's going to go for the swing onto the breach and should be able to pick up that quite easily.
Will be instantly going back towards the bathroom though, so they will know it's an opportunity to toss a second Selma on there. However, Impact as well, still in pocket of that Maestro. They need to be careful. Good Boy will be able to find Yeti, and that means the push is now on. MV Taylor close around the wall. They're starting to get themselves in the position to start headed towards the side, but as they fall back outside, Grixer's retaken the gym.
Well, there he is, now tucked behind the machinery. The reveal of one either side, the spraying and through. MV Taylor finds one. Super still inside the bathroom. The ping to the camera. Wrexham with a jump out. Does not connect with Shile. There's Good Boy up from the stairs. And there is a 3-2 for SANDBOX.
Starting to get a little bit loud there as well as they managed to win their third round. An extra one, and they find themselves with that 4-2 split, looking to chase another victory. And we said it before with the probability screen. An overtime loss or a regular loss is enough to not be making it through and for G2 to qualify towards the playoffs. So they need to make sure that they pick up at least 2 points out of this game. Then to some extent they still have it into their own hands against G2 where they can go for a win. But of course it comes down towards the phase game that G2 has later on to truly confirm it. That's why the percentages are so low currently. There's just a lot of factors that need to go right for SANDBOX to be able to make it. Of course Soniqs are eliminated. They're just playing for that third place right now.
Eliminated.
They're playing for the extra side points. That's what
That's
they're
like
trying to do.
the FPS voice. Double kill.
Isn't there multiple voices for it? I know which one you mean. It's like the
Triple kill.
yes.
5 seconds remaining.
Very nice.
Thank you.
Have you voiced them?
Attackers must locate and
It's me.
defuse a bomb.
Oh,
FPS
it's been
voice.
you all along.
I have been every voice you've ever heard in any FPS game. Ever.
Okay. I don't doubt you.
Cams
I believe
and
you.
calls. And a little bit more cams. Yeti on the role of the Echo. Hey, who does that stop? Monty. Monty's not here this time round. They were hoping that they could try and play themselves with a bit more support onto that potential approach. Maybe they didn't want to go as direct against the Monty as they saw that it was a very confident Monty player. But again, that's off the board. The Echo still has other uses, but the way they've set those cameras up gives the big reveal. They wanted them to step all the way to the top of the steps, hit them, and then shoot out their ankles, which would very quickly remove them from that engagement. Here, another quick breach onto the CC wall itself. It's a step 1, multi-step process, yada yada. There is some pressure from underneath. Good Boy is keeping an eye on the rotation. Yeti was a little bit freewheeling and almost started to bite back the round with the plays he was doing down in the depths. He isn't currently on the roam, but it doesn't mean that he won't find an adventure elsewhere.
There's always the opportunity, of course, to just jump down and suddenly be on that roam. Nothing really stops you, just a single hatch drop and you are into that game. SANDBOX, they've done step 1. You just mentioned it. They have opened up, and the last time around they had a Monty to help them with getting control of the garage side of things. So that is why the Echo's there. You just mentioned it. It is the adaptation they wanted to go for. As Good Boy loses his life, MV Taylor goes for the jump in and chases. Will find Grixer, but needs to be aware that there is yet another player to be found near the logistics area.
There it is, traded off. Good Boy's had a big impact so far, but so has Grixer. Super's taken by MV Taylor. Yeti gets a quick swing round. He's dropped, but he will get the confirmation. In the meantime, Wrexham finds Arakaze, and Wrexham finds one more. There's Yeti to get the last one, and that's an even half. I said it would be, well, not good enough, but good for Soniqs. Good enough is down to them to now prove it.
Yes.
They are good attackers.
They have to make the difference on the attack now because they just managed to get the even off. And Church and Arsenal is the first site where SANDBOX will take us, just like the Soniqs did before them. And what they're going to do different. What we saw on SANDBOX really effectively clearing out these roamers time and time again, managing to pick up 1, maybe even 2 kills, and then they fell short on the actual side. Is SANDBOX going to be playing on that roam? Are they going to be fully turtling into the side itself? It's all questions. Questions we want to like and have answered. What was that? Turtle? Okay. Yes. And soon we will see the answers of these questions. answers of these questions. There we go. All right, I was trying to get back into it. It's fine. It's fine.
Change of
10 seconds left.
Heart Breach.
Bomb located
They've
by
obviously
attackers.
gone towards Salmas. They
5
have a Heart
seconds
Breach
to go.
gadget. We'll find out in a second. You assume the Buck might have it in the pockets to go against the hatches. Yep, there it is. So they can utilize that instead of the Thermites. It gives them the range of the Salmas, the ability to just kind of hot and hop those over. The Kaid's gone, so those hatches will be poppable outside of the potential impact tricks that will go against it. Seems like they're going to pay some quick attention here. Maverick has the job as well, but in the hands of Yeti, I mean, there's enough to focus elsewhere.
There's definitely enough to focus elsewhere here, but as the first Sama does get used onto the CCTV wall, it's just to make sure they can clear out the SANDBOX top floor hold, because they're not playing on the side, they're not turtling, as we were questioning before. There's actually 2 or 3 out and about, and those need to be taken care of first, at least for the current game plan that the Soniqs have. There's always the opportunity, of course, to hit the side directly, but these players, they are currently isolated, they are not currently on the side, and these grenades, they could have had the opportunity to lock them off, but just a small amount of damage done, and Rexon just going off at the exact wrong timing.
I was going to say, yeah, Yeti accidentally took a little bit more damage from his own grenade than Shile did, but they take that as the warning sign. Slip out of there, because Rexon was hot on the heels, all 3 of them. Yeah, we're out of there. There is a hold here. On lounge, you can see them roughly around the double door, how much awareness they have. And when they want to swing, I guess they're mainly waiting for the support to come round. They're tucked with a bit of safety. It's Grixer steadily watching the bullet hole ping. Is this going to be a swing and a pre-fire? That could be the big momentary reveal. They're obviously not immediately tucked behind it. They're hoping that nobody else has got themselves in a position. There's another bullet hole opened up, or a punch hole even. Static is waiting, 1:20, and now there's 2 options. Is there a rotate around the other side of Strip, I wonder?
I'm quite sure, doubt it. He can definitely go up back through the hallway. I mean, Static is kind of playing his life here. He knows that if they don't come, he can retake the ground and try and go at them as they head for blue. And if they do, he has the opportunity to shut them down. There's just a minute left, though, so Soniqs need to make a decision soon. And whatever decision it will be Static involved one way or another.
Yeah, I meant from the side of Soniqs to see if they would focus and remove that player here. Instead, it seems like they're going to drive towards the side. So Static, who actually rotates back round. MV Taylor, he's still knocking around the top floor. They had the drone. I don't know how much it's being watched. Apparently enough. Finker pops a couple of bullets through the door. There's one close on the right. And, oh, Static's able to win it out. He can't get the second, but Shile finds one on the site itself. Good boy locks down Yeti on the drop through the hatch. 20 seconds. Rexon is tucked inside blue. Super is just a bit isolated. Can't quite get the wings of Malusi, but does find Shile on the end of the long table. One on the far end of Dirt. 17 seconds. Waiting for the last smoke canister to dissipate. They're not going to see much beyond it. Rexon hits the door super. Not long after, SANDBOX take their first defense.
SANDBOX with that take the lead again, and we just mentioned it. Static being up there, the Soniqs being a little bit too slow to go for a full top-to-down roam clear. And yes, they had the drone. Yes, it was being watched. Unfortunately, though, still losing a player and a couple, 20 seconds, something like that, to trying to clear out Static that suddenly went onto the attack, went for the chase onto the Soniqs players. And SANDBOX after that, you know, it's just a bit of panic. There's no time left. The Soniqs need to jump in, and you pick him up as they do. And the gym and the bedroom are up next. As the welcome mats are being set up. Call that was made, which we'll find out about soon. Either way, this top floor is often used to, you know, extend towards the other side. We go towards CCTV in case they hear the death sound altogether. Yeah.
I've never. Is that always been a thing?
Yeah, they always all die at the same time, I think. It's like.
I have never heard specifically that. It's just one of them like. Ah!
Might have to do with the operators. They all have their different sounds, you know?
So they will just feel like the map just disappears. Makes me feel a bit bad for them.
I mean, it's like the map just implodes, right? So the voice slowly starts to go away as well into nothingness. But talking about the top four, because even though we have a rehost coming in,
yeah,
that does mean that they have to stay, first of all, onto the same site.
They do.
When we do get back. And they need to use the same operators. And with the fact that, you know, We are playing on LAN. That means there's no clean feed for any of them. There's no stream either, which they could potentially get information of. Not that anybody would, but we are going to see the exact same setup to come through in just a couple of seconds. There was no drones yet that came in far enough to actually see that there was a frost on the board, that there was frost mats being placed at these specific windows. And of course, when you do drone out the frost, you will be aware frost mats. But it is something to keep in mind.
I will say we're saying that they'll be the same setup because it hadn't been seen, not because they have to do the same setup. They have to bring the same operators.
Yes, that's true.
But the setup itself doesn't have to be the same. And obviously with attacker repick, it was at the very beginning. So attackers, I think they have to lead in with the same operators, but it's a repick option, so they can swap those out as the pick phase continues, based on what they found in their drone game. But that was instant. There was no drones inside the building at that point in time. Yada, 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 rules, rules, rules. Hey, we're on Gym Bedroom. Let's get buff with seeing if the Soniqs can try and keep this game level pegging. It's been a bit back and forth, only really able to tie 2 rounds together. The teams have done it once, and then either side of that little dance, it's otherwise been pulling things away from each other.
For sure, SANDBOX currently have the 1 extra round available to themselves here, leading now the charge as well. But they've only just gotten onto the defense here, and Soniqs, you know, they just started off the attack. That is a Bennett wire you do not often see. Placed in the middle wall there towards Cash from CCTV, just to make sure that they won't be opening that up any wider with a Selma charge or with the Skyros pellets. Doubt they would use an exothermic on that, especially because the one next to it is going to be open. But just to limit the amount of angles that can really be used from the CCTV area. And, you know, if you have an extra bended wire, why not just go for it? Because bender tricking, which might happen, might not happen, is a little bit easier now. You can actually place 2 at the same time.
It is.
Don't need to shoot them anymore before you can place the next one.
And true. Seems like they're paying quick attention towards options. As I said before about attacking this sort of site in the flight, you're making sure that you isolate movement. You're making sure that you pretty much cut the floor in half. The quick pressure onto Logistics Hatch is actually being met by Static, who's hoping somebody just drifts their way through and doesn't have the intel. We did see a player droning roughly around that area. Not sure what the end result of that position of the drone was, or if it got picked back up because it hadn't dropped the hatch itself yet. But still, attention. Yeah, Super, you're not getting that wall, unfortunately. Gets the reveal that there is obviously the electrification on it. There is softs and places that you can remove some of those bandit ones if you're looking towards stock and driving up towards the side of Shield, but you can kind of see roughly players are there. They're still doing their working things out with Soniqs. The pressure comes across red, the player down on the bottom of it as well. Are they wanting to swing? Just misses it. Yeti takes off. Grixer holds the power position. Super is now dropped onto the balcony to offer some support to Kansan, but good boy, he has done enough, been the best boy. And he's gone out of there. A big rotate, keep the body balance into their favor. Do not give them a 2 versus 1. Leave them with 30 seconds and a lot left to do.
Definitely deserves a pat on the hat for that one there. Did really well taking out those 3 Soniqs players and now, you know, leaving them with little time left to clear out the rest of the building. So will be Super and Kansan both pushing in together, potentially through the logistics area here. No frostmat underneath there. No need to worry, but a C4 blows up right in his face. It's only up to Kansan now in a 1v3. 7 seconds on that clock. Will he find one? No, he will not. Static will lock him down, and that is going to be SANDBOX with yet another 2 rounds after one another.
For the first time this game, a team has been able to thread 3 rounds in a row. And I guess... Oh, no, 2 even. Sorry. My mistake.
Second time to get 2.
Second time they get 2. It's the first time a team has been able to break the deadlock of 1s for a while, since SANDBOX did it at pretty much the start of the first half. It's the first time a team has the option to potentially, again, keep driving onto that. Keep breaking that momentum. We're getting more and more of a gap and a distance. It's the first time we're starting to see the chance of a 3-round difference between the 2 teams. SANDBOX keep themselves fighting over onto the side of CC.
And right now, SANDBOX, they know there is an opportunity they can make it towards the playoffs. And where it looks very unlikely, let me just paint the picture for you. They win now, they pick up these 3 points. Then they will play against G2. If I'm correct, they need to take a full win against G2 as well, just to put themselves in a bit of a better situation.
They do G2 there because they got the overtime win against Soniqs.
Yeah.
They're within grasping range. They're on 8 points currently.
And just a single point No, not a single point. But
Yeah,
taking him
so
away
if-
from SANDBOX is going to be...
Yeah, if SANDBOX drop a single point at this point, and they get a full fat win against G2, then they end up level with G2's points, 8-8. If they win here, full fat, and they win against G2, full fat, they're on 9 points. So at that point, G2 needs to get to overtime to at least level in their showdown later on against FaZe.
Yeah, and that is going to be the tough game that G2 still has up against them here. So G2 definitely looking to find it and end it up against the SANDBOX team. Sorry, Jerry, had to do it there. Don't know if you saw that. But either way, it is going to be Soniqs that try and push on now. It is CCTV that get opened up, but at the same time, the garage that is going to be breached as well by Rexon. And with that, you will have step 1 and 2 complete. Now you just need to take control of the rest of the garage, and after that, you can try and actually go for a plant.
Soniqs, can you try and start to drive yourself back into this on this site? The one that I talked about before started to lead very well for attacker team. Static just misses out on the drone. He's got the special spectacles of the Warden to ward off any of the potential approach of the flashes. That's his game. They have to lock in. The Nook, I think, might have been the only swap out. The surprise of Grixer isn't going to be a surprise anymore. If anything, that makes things a bit trickier here for Grixer. Like, I'm sure, you know, Soniqs, they're happy that the round wasn't given away from them, but at the same time, they're probably irritated they won't be able to pull the same opening trick because SANDBOX will be aware of it. So Soniqs are going to have to come up with a slightly different interlude. However, Grixer, he's pretty good at finding bodies and finding his way through.
He definitely is, and he will have to do that again here now against SANDBOX to make sure that Soniqs have an opportunity to stay in this game. Of course, they do want to win, and they do want to go out with a victory underneath their belts. Again, I said it before, no team wants to leave the major without a single victory on the board. And to quickly go back before the action started, to those of you that were traveling, make sure that you arrive safely and get yourself some pictures around. There's so much to see in Berlin. Use the map that Milos made. But as we get going, step 1 is starting to be on the board. It is Garage that gets opened up. The pressure soon to start rising. And of course, the balcony will be opening up next. A CCTV double wall to be used here now by Super, using an extra thermic. Quickly checking if there's anything outside he needs to worry about. Hoping that Jetty gets in play so they can get rid of a mute jammer. Would it be there?
Ready for the pacey potential breach here. They might try and drive themselves heavier and harder towards the player on the top rung. Yeti's holding off on the angle. Seeing if they can get the swing round. They pepper some bullets, but they aren't otherwise forced further out. Static is playing that role and droned heavily. Obviously, the Warden, he actually goes really wide there. Puts some damage into Kansan, who was watching just on the outside. Shiles that support round on that little dip door down. Around to the pit side. The long arm C4 doesn't get the catch. They're tucked around the safety of the hard corner.
Quick pings coming out. Rexon still sitting still with that drone, not moving it at all, because that will give away the sound. That will give it away to Static that he is being watched. So waiting outside the window. Could be eyeing for a bit of a jump in here. Shao is trying to give some support from the steps, but he won't be able to find anything yet. So many players currently not on the side. Just 2 out there, but as rotations do come through, the site will definitely be reinforced a little bit.
And that's it. It's all being watched by that drone that's still on the stairs. They know exactly when that player at the bottom of the stairs makes his movement, and they still can't quite get the lock-in. Caught around the bushes and the tree, but it's Static that gets the opener here onto Kansan. Grixer's knocking on the door, and Super suffers. The wrong side of an explosion with Static getting the rest of him. Finds the catch the ring out. Yeti stops the bleeding, but Shile makes it continue, puts pressure onto the wound as Yeti's trying to find the pressure onto the side itself. Cut through the middle, and suddenly it's falling away. But Rexon now on the door, tucked around with the kit, the ping on the player. They're just trying to pull apart any of the safety of this. That rampant sort of SANDBOX game of swinging out towards them. There's Rexon. Followed the kill based on that drone that was still stuck on the stairs since the very beginning. 2 versus 2. Soniqs have done well to be able to drive themselves back into this after it really started to slip through their fingers, but there's still a couple of players, and still this, the awkward positioning of the kit. Obviously it was dropped outside that split before. You can see with 20 seconds, Yeti's actually going to fall off and go for the grenade underneath. They go a little bit wide. Now that's 10 seconds. It was a good idea, but they didn't quite get the catch. Rexon, he's looking for the fight over the top of red, gets caught out. It's all down to Yeti now. He drives into the first, can't see the second. And SANDBOX get the round either way. They are sitting now for the first time 3 rounds in a row. Now for the first time, a 3-round difference. And now for the first time, somebody is on map point.
And they will look to try and lock it off here for a full 3-pointer, of course, to put themselves in the best possible position to fight with G2 later on, to fight for a playoff spot against the European region. And they have 3 opportunities to lock it off for that 3-pointer. I don't think this day will be coming down to round differential between these two. It will come down to straight-up points. So whether it will be a 7-5 or a 7-3, I don't think they care too much. As long as the victory is theirs. As long as the 3 points will be theirs. And we're headed towards the basement, Emmy. This side that is just so difficult to attack for both Soniqs and SANDBOX that we've seen so far. And with that, the Soniqs, they really have a tall hill to climb here.
More than that, I think at this point, SANDBOX are playing with the energy of a team that needs to have the win. And there's 2 tough moments for a team that needs to have a win. The first one is the first couple of rounds, when you're first getting into the game, setting a pace and finding it. The second one, sometimes cited as being the harder, is if you're in this position. On map point. You just need one more. Adds a whole different feeling of pressure, a whole other sort of language of pressure. And some teams understand it perfectly, and some teams it comes out as nothing that they can read or write down on the board. Soniqs, their position hasn't really changed generally. Sure, they're sitting on map point, but they do not have the same stakes that SANDBOX do. Will they be chewable, or will it be something that SANDBOX just cannot stomach?
A big question. But we'll see it answered in 2 minutes and 20-ish seconds. Unless the diffuser, of course, does go down. Grenade to be tossed in deep towards the staircase. Rolls a bit too far. Static will live. But that's going to be the call for him to fall back. He knows that he has been seen. He knows there's more grenades in the pocket of those operators that are around on the Sonic side. 5 more, to be precise. Don't want to overstay their welcome there. Let them work. Let them clear. Let them waste their time. Whilst everybody of SANDBOX is sitting on the site. That's exactly what they're doing right now. Hatches will be opened up soon by the Soniqs. The first one is already set up with a couple of Excars now headed towards the kitchen. Always a bit careful there because impact nades are a thing. They could be used 4 in total in the hands of SANDBOX now.
So they're going to start the chance of the breach here. I think they've just seen that there's no hole for the impact trick directly to come through, but it is there. It is tucked, and it is going to be able to get... wrong side. The hatch, yeah, gets popped open. They're going to get that hatch pretty cleanly there. And they'll start their try and pressure to the site. Moto, and it gets popped too. That was always going to be straight. The C4 was a bit straight. Did some damage to Super, and I think took out a drone in the meantime. They have that Valcam directly above it as well. And a lockdown onto dirt as Kansan starts the pressure onto the kitchen floor.
It's do or die now for the side of the Soniqs. If they want to be making it into the top 3 position, they need to bring it back here. They need to make sure that SANDBOX is not allowed to win. But Shao gets the very first onto Rexon. He digs in a little bit deeper, holding Moto. Shao still aggressively below the blue hatch there. They want to shut them down as they drop in.
There's the drop, there's the reveal, all popped on the camera. 40 seconds. Grix is a bit blinded in the corner. He's waiting and holding on for the swing to come his way. They have the man advantage, and they've just seen a second slip through. There's the spray onto the back, and a great pick back up. Super finds one onto Good Boy in the same breath. Suddenly, the body balance has fallen into the favor of Soniqs. There's another screaming down the corridor. They still have the player above the hatch as well. They're trying to find their way back through Shile. He knows that the plant might be going down. Tucked on the corner, there's the nook of the reveal. It's a 4 versus 1. Arakaze sees none of it. And Soniqs find the first they need.
To break the mold of SANDBOX here to make sure it is not going to be a straight 4 rounds onto their defense, and they live to fight another round. Still match point though, that hasn't changed. Overtime is still 2 rounds away before the Soniqs can even start to think about putting a win on the board here. And SANDBOX will continue their rotation. They will head towards the gym and bedroom for the second match point attempt. Breathe in and out.
I worked out why I've been confusing the teams.
Why have you been confusing the teams?
Because I accidentally wrote SANDBOX's name down twice.
Well, I mean...
It's been a morning.
Is it SANDBOX against SANDBOX?
It's been such a morning. No, it's SANDBOX against Soniqs, and I have that locked in now. It's why I'm so sorry.
No, it's fine.
I'm a mess this morning.
We all have these mornings.
Soniqs. That wasn't a mess. That was
yeah.
clean. That was very well put together, the attack and the break on it. They knew where they needed to be. They knew what they needed to remove there, even though SANDBOX got that opener body. From that point onwards, obviously the power of Grixis getting in, getting the swing, Rexon having those moments as well. The pocket nook is something that keeps popping up for these horrible surprises. Talking of horrible surprises, the electrification of these walls. I'm not going to say it entirely stumped Soniqs on the last approach, but it definitely gave them food for thought. We visually saw them go get an eye check on it and be like, well, we've got to do a slightly different approach here. They had to do that after about a minute and a half. Getting to that point, we obviously might see a bit of a change of pace here, a bit of a change of place. They might look towards something slightly different in terms of, well, let's focus this fire first.
6-4 match point. Soniqs are going to be bringing some speed into the execute here. I mean, they have opened up that first one quickly. 30 seconds. And it opened up. Right now, they're already onto the garage as well, trying to put pressure onto CCTV and Cash. But of course, that is only the first part of it, as they still need to go on towards the gym and the bedroom afterwards. So only really, and everything that they're doing currently is putting some pressure onto Good Boy and onto the player onto the red stairs. Grenades being tossed in, no connection whatsoever yet.
I was going to say, Good Boy, obviously, if we're talking about big clutch rounds, this was the one where he put down the business. They lost the first engagement around the top of that stair set, and then Good Boy stacked behind the shield. Okay, maybe that's what they read before. They read it well there. There goes Good Boy, the man of the previous moment. Shyle is so alone right now. 2 drones either side, and he realizes he cannot sit and stay and play this place anymore. Runs past the gunfire, a little bit of a spray back over from Arakaze, but he's escaped.
A bomb has been
Territory is going to be handed over. Static on the deep roam, going for potentially a bit of a surprise play later on, 1:20, and if Soniqs read out that there is a 5 versus 3 on the site, it could be huge.
Bomb located by
it could be, but it could also be Static that is now trying to retake the CCTV area. Could be coming into the back of Yeti. Could be coming into the back of Kansan, who are playing around the area now. Super has also just joined them. Is there going to be a flank drone? That's the first down. Kansan, I don't know how he dropped. I don't know if it's a Frostman to come through, but a C4 blows him up. It is going to be an effective 4-on-3 situation now in favor of SANDBOX as they get the confirm.
It was a frost mat. They went for the hop. Yeti doubled it over, and that was the removal. The C4 was so scrappy. They were concerned about somebody going for the swing and the confirm here. There's a fight on Static. He's seen, and he just has to move away. It's 40 seconds. And a body comes around either side, sprayed onto the bathroom, forces them out. Didn't really need to take the fight. Grix is able to take care of Static. 30 seconds. There's pressure coming over to the logistics door itself. Some grenades are going to do some work underneath. They can't quite find the skin of the player. Arakaze is behind 2 times. 20 seconds now, and Rexon starts to pop open the window as Grixis pops open ahead. It's a 3 versus 2. They have the man advantage once again. They have the time. They have just one more obstacle in front of them, and they find it. Super finds the double drive, finds one more round. Only one separates them from heading to OT.
A bit too aggressive there from SANDBOX. They managed to find a double kill with the C4 and the Frostmats, Emmy, and after that they took gunfights that just were a bit too unnecessary. And of course you want to deal with a player that is out there with these grenades. And of course you want to make sure that you shut him down as quickly as you can. But if you lose the gunfights instead twice in a row because you're not ready to play the trade game with one another, well, suddenly you find yourself on 6-5. And now the actual SANDBOX tactical timeout is being called, as the previous one was a technical timeout that was going through due to a cable not working properly. They have some time to talk, because they know they need a win. They need to get every single point that they can possibly get to be competitive with G2 for that last spot. Soniqs are out of the equation here. There's nothing that they can do but get that 3rd place for assign points, but that's still a pretty valuable prize to win.
SANDBOX, 1 round separates you, and as you said, a little bit too aggressive. Soniqs have found some of that momentum. I talked about it before. Sometimes this is the tricky round. Sometimes that final step is the tricky step. Again, if we find ourselves in OT, SANDBOX need the win. It's still technically possible, but they need a lot of other things to happen that way. They need more things to happen. They need a clean win here to have a chance at stepping ahead of G2. And even then, they still also got to get through G2 themselves. So, Soniqs, your journey has ended. Will you be the ones that actually hand G2 their trip through to playoffs?
It could be. It could be. I mean, you know, we talked about how G2 before was helped by Heroic twice in Charlotte. First of all, making it there, then headed towards the playoffs due to that result. Are they going to be receiving some help from the Soniqs now to find themselves into the playoffs, not having to play SANDBOX themselves anymore for that result? Only time will tell. As there is just a single round left, or a match point is in the hands of SANDBOX. Is Soniqs going to be able to bring this back? Bring it to OT, where both will have an opportunity to fight for a single extra point. Or not? Well, find that soon. Back towards the basement we went. Statistically, a very hard side to attack, but Soniqs managed to pull it off at least once. Shao receiving some pressure from the garage door, but also from the balcony behind. Super is heart-breaching it right now. You need to get out of there.
That's it. They've pulled themselves off. They're not going to sit around and suffer the consequences of it. Good Boy isn't too far away. Shile's popped himself around a construction. They have the 3 players in the aggressive hold for now, because obviously we find ourselves in a slightly dipped site below. Soniqs steady droning has been a consistent for their approaches here. They're trying to cut off any of the rotates, the routes through. There's the reveal of a single player, and there's the rotation. Static pulls himself slightly further back. The player's about to put pressure onto construction window. They just missed the swing. There it is, though. Followed back up. Kansan gets Static. Shile, he's a little bit lost in the source. The drone's about to roll through. There's a pre-fire and a soft. There it is. Slipped away. Taylor's here for a shoulder of support as well, and now they've lost that first body. They cannot lose another. One watching here on the chain link door on the far side. They're going to try and take the swing. Hope that they might be able to find a slip through. Grixer gets the elbow, gets one more of 5 versus 3.
Unnecessary aggression from SANDBOX again. They find it themselves onto 6 now, slowly being picked apart. Excaris again coming through. Again, the impacts. Oh, this time actually connecting. I was going to say on the wrong side. Another 4 will be placed on. Another impact to stop it from happening. But now, finally, it will open up. You think? There you go. The second set will be coming through. Yes, indeed. And that means that Soniqs now have a direct way into the armory.
Good Boy, he's trying to find a catch on a player, just hoping they can get lucky, but luck isn't a game that Soniqs want to roll the dice on here. They're still steadily droning ahead every single step of the team ahead of them. I'm going to lose one through the hop through the window. Why risk it when this is the other option? Rexon drove through onto the site via the stock hatch. Super's going to see if he can stick it in the meantime. It's suddenly exploding here for the side of SANDBOX. They can't get the diffuser locked down, but they may as well go for the fight. Instead, it's cold. It's swung round. Harakaze with a triple, cannot find the rest. And we're going through overtime.
One long angle being watched here, making sure that there was no clutch potential to come through from SANDBOX. And indeed, overtime on the cards here. SANDBOX, you could theoretically still have enough with just 2 points. That could allow you to fight on. But then round differential could be the decisive factor in the end here. So,
if Soniqs win,
then G2 is qualified.
They send G2 through to playoffs. Let me just...
Yep.
Let's just put a little bit of air around that statement. A little bit of breathe it in. Soniqs to be the team that send G2 through.
After Elamau and Prana retired Super yesterday, according to their own words.
According to their own words.
Yeah,
this
exactly.
isn't you saying.
No, that's not me saying this. I'm just quoting the G2 players.
Yeah. Okay.
We'll be giving them a parting gift.
Yeah. A friendly handshake.
Friendly handshake. 6-6, and we are in gym and bedroom. SANDBOX, they continue to be on the defense, but it doesn't really matter considering it has been 3-3 and 3-3. There's a perfect 50 split right now, and that might break. That will break in this round. Is it going to be the Soniqs? They're able to yet again find another round. Chain 4 rounds in a row. Or is it SANDBOX that will be able to break the chain of the Soniqs? Find themselves in yet another match point to continue fighting for a playoff spot, because that's what's at stake here for SANDBOX. That's what's at stake for Korea, for APAC North. SANDBOX is their last hope.
Wow, here comes the breach over the roll once again. We've seen Soniqs obviously massive step up in their attacks, and they're going to see if they can try and turn what was the prestigious 3 rounds into an unstoppable potential 4 here. Set themselves up with a chance at this, the 2 points, the win, their first of this tournament. Rex creeps his way up the rafters and gets himself set up with an angle. Again, Soniqs are thorough They're not going to suffer a slipped end. They've made sure that they've had an awareness of what SANDBOX like to do, and everything is double and triple checked.
Same kind of setup here. Open up the CC wall first, then head from the garage, just so you can put pressure down onto the players in catch from 2 different angles. Yeti down below as well with 2 of these grenades. If they do manage to find one of these players, one will definitely be sent down from below. Shao continues to be aggressive on the top of red here. They want to make sure no one can enter from that breach, but with that, they might actually not be paying enough attention towards the actual garage.
Well, with the theory of measure twice and cut once, the cut is going to try and come through towards that. The power shield on the corner, but everything is caught out by the looks of it. Arakaze has gone for a pull off on the opposite side as Grixer holds it down the middle floor. A big rotate underneath once again. A lot earlier, at least in terms of who is still on the board, than previous. Good Boy. Oh, almost sees a sliver of a body. They've tucked themselves in behind the server stack, and Good Boy's pulled back, waiting for this attack. Shyle has the cover and the support to make sure there isn't a massive thread through, but it seems like they can't quite get this shield open. They've got to reevaluate how they're going to try and take this power position. It could be some pressure from underneath the open angles, cause some problems. Good Boy's doing all that he can. Arakaze's going for a bit of a swing. There's Good Boy getting one. Cannot quite find the second, but there's MV Taylor and Arakaze. The cavalry comes through.
We'll be able to get the flank off as well. Yeti and Super, the last men standing. Yeti will find one. Good Boy locked off. But now they need to think about heading towards the site. There's only 30 seconds left. There's not a lot of time, and there's still a lot of ground to cover here. A lot of men to kill as well on the side of SANDBOX. And some of them are on these main stairs with his shotgun as well. As it's only up to Yeti, he will be shut down. Arakaze will be able to lock him off. And with that, it's going to be another match point for SANDBOX. If they win this, they can continue to fight. If they lose this, it will go down to round 15 to decide whether or not G2 will be qualified. Whereas SANDBOX can still fight on.
Church Arsenal is actually where we sort of started this whole foray, and it turned into, you know, a bit of a back and forth. It's a site that's seen mixed successes across both teams, but generally had a preference towards Soniqs, basically across this game itself. So there's pressure here onto SANDBOX. They've not really had a full handle on the momentum. It's not as if they've just swanned and fought their way here. It's been on the back of a long drought of rounds that should have really cemented them the 3 points. Oh well, you have to brush that off and see if you can try and get your heads back together. The full stretch on the top floor proved a little bit challenging for them when they were going for the break here. Rexon and Yeti, a bit of a combination with all of that denial of any of that intel.
Now you just saw there an overtime win would be enough statistically for SANDBOX that could put them into a straight out shootout with G2 in terms of round differential. And I'm quickly going to be pulling up those current stats. Let me find out. That is going to be really tough. SANDBOX currently on -6. G2 on +5. Now, of course, if they win this, it could go either down to -4 or -5 for the side of SANDBOX, but they would need a hell of a blowout against G2 to make sure that they would be able to qualify. We might actually be talking for the next game, Emmy, 2 or 3 rounds, which G2 need to win before they are locked in.
SANDBOX, the mantle of pressure is still on you. Starts with a slow burn over the top. Again, one of the times that we saw the attack here, they got a little bit lost and blindsided by the players, and it seemed in their hands and then filtered and flitted away. The second time, it was definitely more of a Sonic show. Both of them ended up, as I said before, in the Sonic's favor. Here, there's a lot of the focus onto these top 4 players. A minute has passed. They've done some of the destruction. They've got some of the attention paid towards the big breach open walls, but they haven't forced any of the players out of their major positions as of yet. As I said, the Eddie and Rexon duo on one side, Kansan holding down onto the red stairs. For now, there is obviously the choice of the players down in the basement to rotate up, but they haven't really played it. They've trusted those two to keep the site under lockdown.
Rexon aggressive now, falling back, but he will be caught up by the logistics player. Arakaze will find one. Is he going for 2? Yes, he is! Yeti will be shut down. 5v3. A massive opening here for SANDBOX, but we've seen this before on this exact same side. The double opening leading into Soniqs being able to bring it back somehow. 80 seconds on the clock. Kansan trying to go back towards the side will successfully be able to descend these new blue stairs. No one is currently watching it. Drones are still coming out. They're trying to set up that drone network. Grenade to be used to open up that hatch. It's not something we often see, but it allows MV Taylor to put the pressure onto blue.
That's it. They've got the blue hatch open. Kansan, he's trying to keep just a bit of an arm's length between both sides. He wants to go up, he wants to go down, but he wants this. Maybe a 1 versus 1. In the meantime, Harikaze gets super onto the side itself. Envy Taylor gets the catch on the loose player. Grixer is all that's left. An ace clutch to keep Soniqs in this fight with a chance at a win here against SANDBOX. A chance at sending G2 forward. They seem to have a rough idea where he is. That's turning into a solid idea. That's turning into a flawless SANDBOX. The dream stays alive. It's dangerous, but it's doable. They take 2 points.
They take 2 very important points in their game here. 3 would have been better, but now round differential could be a potential decider at the end of the day. But more importantly, they're not eliminated yet. They are fighting in third, and they are looking forward towards their next match against G2.
We'll throw it to a quick break before we're back with a breakdown of that game.
Paris, Mexico, Stockholm. I have so many memories. I had a front row seat to see Goga qualify G2 Esports for the final after an unbelievable performance.
On the best team in the world.
I was there in Tokoname, where Nello won a legendary round all by himself.
In the midst of a crossfire, gets one on the Diesel and a second one on Everett. Oh my God! Are you kidding me? The 1v4.
I was standing in that madding crowd at Montreal, stunned by the triumph of Space Station Gaming.
But it's home once again.
I was thrilled when Ninjas in Pajamas got its revenge in Paris.
Not bad.
To Alamau in a 1v3 here. He makes the swing, he finds the headshot, and not just one.
I witnessed LMAO's demonstration in Mexico when he led Team 1 to a consecration against all odds. I was fortunate to see Damwon Kia making history in front of me in Yable.
First Korean team who are progressing to the semi-finals!
But did I tell you I even saw as a nobody TSM FTX became the new world champions in Stockholm?
They have a rematch.
This is it. This is my major story. And as an official hardware partner of Rainbow Six Esports, I feel blessed to witness them for such a long time.
Hello and welcome back to the post-game summary of SANDBOX versus Soniqs. And Soniqs, they get another point, but it is nothing more than that. SANDBOX, they get 2, but it is nothing more than that. And that's the sort of, well, sketchy story, I think, of this. Hitting OT, it's not good for either of them.
It's not good for either of them, but SANDBOX continues their fight on against G2 Esports. A full-on win was what they needed anyway already, so that doesn't change anything for the game against them. And I just wanted to say, we talked about how Arakaze needed to step up because he didn't really do so during the major. Well, he did this time around. So good for him to show up today on a very important day for SANDBOX.
When you needed him the most, he arrived.
He
and
didn't
why
disappear,
did we
yes.
need him the most? Well, because of the group standing and where we find these teams. FaZe, they are qualified. They have 2 games later on in the day at the end of the day, but they're locked in. Soniqs, they are not qualified. There is nothing that they could have done at the start of the day to get themselves through. So it was a race between G2 and SANDBOX Gaming for that sort of position in that second spot.
Yeah, I just want to do some quick mathematics here because you currently see SANDBOX on 5, you saw G2 on 8. Round differential will be the decisive factor there. And as you saw, G2 has +5 rounds, SANDBOX has -4. That's a difference of 9.
You keep doing math.
Okay, but I was going to say between the two of them. And if you would win 7-0, that would, of course, be a difference of 14 because you get +7 on SANDBOX, -7 on G2. Are you still following me?
I'm not, but I hope the audience.
Okay, well, in that case, it does come down to a lot of rounds. You know what? We'll just throw it to a break so I can explain you a bit more. I'll be explaining you during the very next game where it will actually come into play because we might see G2 qualified even without overtime, even without an overtime point. So I'll be quickly doing that mathematics. See you soon.